So if you're watching the video or if you haven't joined us before, the Lunch and Learns that we do every month is really just kind of a relaxed, let's chat about current events, topics, let's have a good time. We try to simulate the, sitting around a conference outside of the talks, the lobby con, just current events, whatever. Aaron has his beverage with him.
It's water, believe it or not lemonade this time or beer. So
yeah,
just straight water.
So we've got a bunch of topics, articles that we'll just kind of bring up and talk about. But if anybody watching has questions or ideas or topics or just wants to heckle, John, feel free to throw that out. So the first one I'm going to bring up here, just because we've talked a little bit about NFTs before, and the absurdity of NFTs. Before I throw this out there, does anybody own an NFT?
No.
Nobody? No. All right. So the Bored Ape Yacht Club is like the epitome of like all the cool NFTs that all the cool kids own. All the celebrities are like, hey, I got to have it, paying ridiculous amounts. This article, they had $3 million in NFTs stolen because of an Instagram takeover. John's background albums are awesome. Yes, they are, Kathy. What? I don't know. Thoughts on this? Like, did you guys see this article?
Yeah, I think we had talked about it earlier this week, maybe? I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I remember seeing something about it and thinking to myself, was two-factor not involved on their Instagram account?
Yeah.
So apparently they said it was. They said that their statement was that they had two-factor authentication enabled on their Instagram account and all of the security best practices surrounding it. So, like, I'm kind of wondering, how did their account get compromised? I mean, did whoever runs it fall victim to like a social engineering attack? Or
that's the way I read it. I kind of assumed that it has to be. I mean, they didn't give out the details, but it seems like they have to.
Like, I can't imagine there was some it's possible there's some unknown exploit in Instagram, but that's less likely. I feel like.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I think the bigger issue is the continuing theme that people are falling for social engineering scams. Yes, it is a legitimate account, but they're asking you to do something that you should have a natural skepticism toward.
Sure.
Right? I
can agree with that.
I just bought a house back in December. One of the things they talk about is make sure you call to verify your wire instructions with the bank.
Right.
You're like, but I just got this from you. You're the bank.
Yeah.
Call anyway. That's too big of amount of money for you to trust an electronic form of communication. Always verify that.
Yeah, totally. I think what's hilarious is the estimated 3 million value, like
of an NFT. Right.
I was gonna say this is $3 million. This is internet money, right? Like it's what were the points on what was that game? The Drew Carey. What was that game show?
Whose
line is it anyway?
Whose line is it anyway? Yeah, the points don't matter. They're all made up. That's kind of the way I feel. Like I think this is one of those things, like kind of like Beanie Babies. Like in 20 years, our kids are going to be like, were people really spending this much money on JPEGs? Like, is that really a thing?
Right.
I will tell you though, they might last a little bit longer than that pair of sneakers that you spent $10,000 on.
Yeah, I'm the dude that spent like $20 at Walmart and thought it was expensive for shoes. Yeah. So I'm probably not the best example there. All right, next topic. I'm going to throw out the and if you guys have one you want us to talk about specifically, let me know. I'm just kind of going down the list of some of these, but the Homeland Security's bug bounty program. I thought this was kind of interesting. They opened it up and found 122 vulnerabilities just like right off the bat. Any of you guys involved in this? Did you guys make thousands of dollars with DHS bug bounties?
Yeah, I found all the crits and I pulled in about $100,000.
Nice.
No,
nice.
I wish, but
Cory's buying lunch. That's Cory at securideas.com.
Just send him your address and everything, and he will get you an Uber Eats account set up.
Yeah, I'll be sure.
I'm curious how many people were sitting on these for a while before the bug bounty opened up, and then we're like, "Oh, hey, now I can actually make some money off of this," rather than So
North Korea is like, hey, you know, this is how we get around sanctions. Is
So I think like
yeah,
a few things that stood out to me in that article though with this program was, so like out of the 122 vulnerabilities found, 27 of them were deemed critical, and it was also apparently the first like federal agency bug bounty program to allow Log4j exploits on their public facing assets.
Wait, hold on. Log4j came out in December.
Yeah.
It's the end of April. The DHS has Log4j available externally. Remote codex.
Maybe.
Well, okay, so
Maybe.
it says here that the bounty opened up in
bugs were.
December.
Oh, I missed that. I just saw the article. Okay.
Second paragraph down, I think it says DHS announced the hack DHS bounty in December.
Okay.
So they announced it. I don't know if it was
that's more
open then, but
that's
still.
fair. That's fair.
Also, I mean, we don't know how many of those findings were related to Log4j. It's just in their actual terms, they said, yeah, you can exploit Log4j stuff.
Sure.
A lot of them don't see that. I kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious if this was money well spent. I mean, it seems like it might have been, but like, what's the trade-off, right? I mean, versus, having an internal team that's capable of actually keeping up with this external infrastructure.
Right.
To some extent, though, it does make business sense because you're sort of crowdsourcing something that may be a scarce commodity, right?
Definitely.
Having your own team isn't necessarily something that's, I mean, a better audience can attest that they're probably understaffed for what they're being asked to do and what they're being asked to cover.
Yeah.
This is probably a fairly good, fairly inexpensive way to supplement your own activities with little downside to it. Yeah. Some of this stuff is being a little bit more public, but hey, that just helps to drive the importance of actually getting it done. A little transparency goes a long way towards kind of getting the higher ups. Optics matter, right?
Sure.
You're going to spend money on things that could hurt you reputational.
I agree with you there. I think, like you said, they're probably understaffed, and I mean, they only have to pay for actual bugs in this case, right? So
right.
Well, and we've got a lot of customers that do larger customers that do. They'll pay us to do an annual or multiple penetration tests during the year that are very focused deep dives into exploring all the available functionality of a specific system. But then they also have bug bounties where they get a lot more of the surface stuff. You get maybe not as deep, but much wider. Yeah. Right. And even like I don't remember if it was Bug Crowd or HackerOne. Like a year or two ago, one of them like came out and just publicly admitted like, hey, the majority of our bug bounty stuff tends to be fairly superficial. So we're going to build this new program where we assign specific people and we, basically they're saying, hey, we're going to do a pen test. We're going to pick people to go deep dive into this certain thing and make sure we get as much functionality. So they kind of acknowledge like the model we thought was great isn't enough. You need to kind of do both if you're going to do that, which makes sense. Yeah, like Jason said, you got to have a pretty mature program before adding a bug bounty. Like you're not, if you're not already doing a lot of that stuff, it's probably not going to be worth the effort.
You should have a pretty mature program before you start doing any kind of pen testing at that point too. I mean,
that's fair. Like
there's so many, how much low hanging fruit do we find, just randomly on our tests and stuff like, I mean, for years now, at my previous organization, that's stuff, the same thing. We've said it for years. Mature your program. Let's go through risk assessments. Let's go through security assessments. Let's figure out where everything's at and then do some testing and everything from there.
Yeah.
That way you're not just like, oh, the sky is falling.
I saw, what in the world? So I saw an article on Zoom and I tried to pull it up. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Here's why.
Zoom or Zune?
Zoom. Hold on. I just found it.
I haven't heard of Zune in forever.
That is a horrible link.
You're dating yourself by even mentioning that you know it's.
Yeah, that's Zune is a little MP3 player, Corey. It was developed before you were born.
I know what that is. I had one, bro.
Here we go. Here's the other link. I will forewarn you. I accidentally clicked on one of the ads on this site, and it took me somewhere suspicious. So I would maybe not click the ads on that site if you have ads enabled. But Zoom's paying. This isn't one of the articles that we talked about, but they're paying they paid $1.8 million under HackerOne's program last year. I know some of the folks that have done Zoom's penetration tests. So we have not. I don't think we have. I don't think I'm out a customer, but so I've got friends that have done pen tests. So like this is another good example where they do, the in-depth. They have professional folks go do testing, but they still found, even with that, they still found enough to pay out almost $2 million worth of bug bounties last year, which to me is pretty crazy. That's a lot of money.
The great thing about bug bounty programs like this, though, is that you have multiple sets. It's the whole open source argument, right? Multiple sets of eyes on something. Well, in this case, it actually works because, you get a penetration test on something, and we're kind of focused in certain areas on things, and we also have a very limited amount of time. We're scoped for a set, days. And generally speaking, you have bug bounties like this, you can work on something, trying to poke at something and figure out something. So I think it's not a bad idea to do both sides of it, especially for that low hanging fruit and stuff like that, and then have professionals, not to sound pedantic, but professionals come in there and actually find some of the heavier weight stuff to see, where we can break in and figure out how to fix it.
Also, one of the benefits I see to pen testing over bug bounty is that with a pen test, you get that focused industry expert. And I mean, that's helping guide other things than just, oh, here's this vulnerability, go fix it, right? Like there's other things we provide, like strategic guidance for an organization's security posture.
Yeah, it's a good point that you can't just take a bug bounty and say that replaces a pen test.
Yeah.
Because there are components. I mean, the report of the bug is one thing. Then you have to actually go in, validate it, verify it, measure what the actual risk is, and then figure out how you're going to, address that. That's not necessarily what you're paying out the bounty for. You have more work to do, and the bug bounty program itself has kind of administrative overhead as well. So, those bounties aren't the only cost associated with running a bug bounty program. And as Jason pointed out earlier, there's a maturity level that in your organization, in your program, that needs to be there before you can add in bug bounty.
Yeah, we often get, like as part of our advisory service, we often get customers that will forward us, hey, we had this bug bounty thing turned in. Can you validate this for us? Or how bad is this risk really? And I think we've had 2 of those this week. People reaching out saying, is this really that big a deal? Do I need to pay attention to it, or whatever? But all right, moving on. So I thought this was interesting. This Forbes article on the SEC possibly forcing CISOs into the boardroom. Did any of you guys get a chance to read that? Thoughts on that?
I just found it was here.
I read that one. Yeah.
I thought we were going to a different article first, so I read something else first.
So The idea here is that, going back into, was it the 80s or the 90s with Sarbanes-Oxley, where basically Congress said, like, look, hey, companies, you're not paying enough attention to some of this fraud stuff and financial stuff, and it's harming consumers. So we're going to force you to pay attention. We're going to force corporate people to disclose certain things to the boardroom so that then they can, it's public and they can, make better decisions on that. But apparently the SEC has proposed some new rules that would do the same thing for InfoSec, that the CISO has to be able to present certain things to the board and bubble up some of this information that's maybe been hidden, in past from companies. What do you think about that? Is that
double-edged sword? That's what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
Right? You're getting more attention. You're getting more, perhaps more funding for initiatives, but at the same time, the higher level of governance and the likelihood that knowledge that you're injecting into the boardroom may not be as close to the cutting edge as maybe might be beneficial for, kind of the agility and the innovation that, the rate of innovation that we see. Are you
saying CISOs? Are you saying CISOs aren't technical? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm saying that they can't be expected to necessarily, they've got a lot of other things when they're sitting in that boardroom that they have to be aware of and participate in. They can't necessarily be out there and understand as much. I mean, this is a lot of investment of time, right? To really be out there and to be aware of all these things. It's a lot to expect of someone who's got other high level, responsibilities in a boardroom.
Yeah, I think to Giovanni's point, though, I think the executives or the folks in the boardroom, they're going to get lost with too much technical detail anyway. I know my friend Pedro, he's been on this in the past. He does a really good job of taking that technical level of detail and making it accessible to, the C-suite.
Right. I think that's one of the things that we have to do as technical people as well. Is we have to be able to explain that. I hate to say this. It sounds gross, but explaining it like you're explaining it to your grandma, right? Your grandma probably didn't have a whole lot of technical experience and everything. So you have to be able to break it down to a point that, related to something that people who are not in the trenches all the time can understand. And I think that that's an important thing that CISOs, I actually think it's a good thing because it does get more visibility into the programs and stuff. Yeah, it can create more, more financial burdens on the company to actually spend more money on some stuff, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a fine line that they're going to have to walk to be able to figure out how to put that into terms that what everybody can understand. To both of y'all's point,
I think it'll be a challenge up front because when you have all of a sudden, I mean, a lot of companies, they've got somebody that, like Pedro that I mentioned, that can handle that communication and knows what's appropriate and what's not. I think you're going to have a lot of CISOs maybe aren't ready for that. And, we've got people on in the security world that are on the sky is falling. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. We have to change everything now. And then you have people on the other side that are like, well, yeah, I mean, there's risk, but it's not really that big a deal. I think it's going to come down to, initially it'll be a challenge, but over time people will adjust. Like they'll learn the process.
I think it'll be, kind of interesting to see that downward pressure, informed by boardroom decision making rather than teams or, lower level management, security management trying to exert pressure upward to get funding for things. So that'll be kind of interesting to see the dynamic in some companies in whether or not teams who are actually responsible for the security policy and programs will lose a degree of control to do their jobs or not in some cases even because, some directive maybe comes down from up higher in this case. And it's like, no, you got to do it this way. Right. So, I don't know.
And that's really where I was going with the concern is depending on who you get doing that, there's the risk of the pendulum swinging too far, right? To where there's too much direction from the board on what technologies can and can't be used.
Yeah.
It ends up stifling agility and innovation.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was wondering.
But I mean, at the same time, to me, that's I guess if you have a board that's trying to micromanage that level of detail, you either get off the board and move on, or you have executives that are capable of managing that,
standing up to it and being like, "Hey, listen, we know what we're doing here."
Yeah. Do you think that seems to me like it'll drive a premium salary increase for capable and competent CISOs, right? Like we see executive, especially at the enterprise level, executive pay is just crazy off the charts. But the people that are capable of doing that are, maybe there aren't as many of them, and so they're competitive. I wonder if we'll see the same thing for CISOs.
Does that mean Jason's salary just went up?
No, Jason's a CTO. That's completely different.
Right. CTO.
I actually think what you'll end up seeing is you'll see people from other areas of the business moving to a CISO as a path upward.
Interesting.
Because one of the things that I don't want to talk bad about my people here, but one of the things that we find struggle, is a struggle for people that come up through IT is that business savvy, right? The ability to connect with other areas of the business and understand.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, it sounds like somebody needs to come up with some kind of a class to teach these technical people.
Are you trying to go
how
back to
talk
another
the board.
article?
It sounds like, I mean, Secure Ideas is an education training company that does pen testing. So I think maybe,
Yeah.
you know,
It's funny. We actually, we've been building out. We have a foundational data protection class and a foundational application security class. We're working on some more for network testing and stuff. But those are specifically centered around that of, hey, you've got somebody, in a different business line that needs to understand the language and concepts of information security, and providing them that introduction level. Yeah.
And I think you said the valid words there, business line. Because a lot of us, when we're in technical trenches, we don't really think about business so much as just like, hey, we just need to keep the business going, right? We need to make sure everything's still functioning. That was whenever I was, in management and stuff like that. That was my primary goal, was to make sure that everything was up and running so that they can make the decisions. I just had to make the decisions as far as like, what do we need to do to make sure everything is working?
Yeah.
So being able to talk to people, as Giovanni said, like they're a fifth grader, I think it's a valuable skill that it's gonna have to be developed and trained, because we're kind of on an opposite side of the spectrum to a degree.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention the fact that so many of us, myself excluded, because I'm the proverbial extrovert, but so many of us are introverted in the first place, so we don't really like to talk to people in the first place.
Yeah.
Hey! I'm introverted, but like I kill it when I talk to people about tech.
Oh, yeah, no, so many of us though. Like I said, I've known people.
CISO here.
It's
future CISO.
It's that stereotypical IT guy in the basement, right?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
I resent that.
All right, John is currently in his basement now, right?
That was at my old house.
That was the other house.
I've gone upstairs now, so I get sunlight.
Yeah, that's great. No, I was thinking about, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was the Equifax hack. And one of the things that came out was that their CISO was like a music major in college, right? That didn't have a highly technical career path, but had been moved into that CISO level because it was more of a management position, which I personally don't think is a bad thing. I think that level of executive activity is more management than technical. And while, yes, they need to be able to have those technical conversations, I think having somebody with, an MBA or, more of a management level career path might be more appropriate than having someone who, started out as a security analyst and, worked up the path that way. That's an interesting conversation.
I think that basically in order to be a CISO, CISO, whatever, something like that, like you have to be able to communicate to the technical stuff. Yeah, exactly. I think you have to be able to trust the people that you're getting your technical information from and being able to relay that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like you have to be able to know the people that you're talking to with your super technical stuff are legitimate, valid, and trustworthy, so that you can pass that information along.
Cool. Let's pivot and let's go to the other end of the career path. The ISC squared certification. Have you guys had a chance to look at this at all?
Yes.
This looks really cool. Like really cool.
I think so. So just a quick summary. ISC squared is built, or they've already built out a new certification for entry level cybersecurity. The goal being to make it easier to close the skills gap. And Giovanni says it's a money grab. I don't know. I don't know that it is or not.
Is everything with ISC not? No,
that's fair.
I didn't say it. I didn't say anything. I'm not certified, so I don't have to worry about it yet.
I think it definitely is. I don't think it's not also I don't know if it's a good thing or not. I think it's a good attempt. Like I think they can have hey, this will help bring people into security, as well as here's how we can make more money at it. Is that fair?
So,
I mean, and to be fair, that's what we all do. We're all trying to figure out how we can better the whole InfoSec space. But I mean, I'm not here because I want to do this for free.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. And I think this is a wonderful thing. So I taught, or didn't teach. I gave a talk in a class yesterday, a high school class here in Tulsa that yesterday that was actually really neat. I had a bunch of AP computer science kids that were like they were familiar with some of the concepts, but they didn't have a really significant grasp of it. And it was a coding class. So, but I think like these kids, I talked to several of them after this talk was over, in between classes and everything, and they were hungry for this information. And I think that this kind of entry level certification for this, this is hands down high school students, college kids that are really wanting to get into this stuff. And the price for 225, I think is what I saw. Like,
so
that's not bad.
The test right now, the test right now is $125, I think. The training is a little bit more. I know in Oklahoma, they've been working with a couple of nonprofits and have given out a bunch of like free vouchers to take the test. And a lot of the target for that is high school age, early college, like trying to get people who want to get into InfoSec but aren't sure what the next step is.
Right. One of the kids yesterday literally asked me, he goes, "Do you guys take internships?" And I'm like, I don't think so. I know of companies like, whenever I was back at True, we did, but I told him, I was like, it was junior in college level that you had to be before we would be able to take you on as an intern. Yeah. And so working through that and getting through the principles and everything, just the 5 domains there, being familiar with it in the first place, I think is going to be fantastic, because this is stuff that I wasn't familiar with. And my degree was in information system security for whatever.
Yeah. So that to me, that what you said, that just highlights an issue with getting educated in the first place. Like, that students are able to go into comp sci or information security systems and stuff and not be taught basics of security and those fundamentals. That's a big problem to me.
But can we just highlight for a moment the opportunity here for this new kind of entry level certification to introduce a code of ethics as quickly as possible, right?
It's a good point.
Why would we want to wait until somebody's taking a CISSP to tell them, hey, look, really you should behave and go about this with a certain code of ethics? Introduce it early.
I think.
Yeah. What's the B-sides code of ethics, Nathan?
Don't be an ass.
That's right.
I think this is interesting, though. Like Nathan said, like, I think this is a good attempt to. It's not a overall solution, but it's a good attempt that I don't think we've really seen before to try to do this. I'm pessimistic, so I wonder how many how much it's going to become this like one additional kind of gatekeeper thing used by HR departments. Say you need a 4-year degree in something like comp sci or whatever. Also, we need you to have this certification. Like,
I know one of the
the
session I sat in on locally. I may have not said that. They did an organization here in Oklahoma did a session with some ISC Squared Peak folks to kind of talk through the plans for this, because it's kind of in beta right now. They're trying to get people to work through it, and it doesn't have an official name yet of what they're going to call it. I think it's supposed to be released like July somewhere this year. Right around but one of the things is there would not be an expectation that you have to have some level of experience, right? It's truly intended to be a brand new entry level certification. So I've wondered if we have our CISSP mentorship program. I've wondered if it would be worthwhile to build out a whatever this is going to end up being called, a mentorship program for this. So hey, if folks want to move this route, if they're wanting to get the certification, here's our free mentorship program that you can take, or pay what you can or whatever. I think that might be kind of interesting. I don't know.
Well, I mean, this would be a lead into the CISP, correct? Like this
eventually.
This particular certification seems like it's going to be a lead in to other certifications or just the job itself, because how much certifications are great, but a lot of what we learn is just on the job experience.
Yeah.
And so I really thanks, Brad.
Yeah, that's great.
I appreciate that. I think starting in junior high, like they're teaching kids to code in like some elementary schools, probably, right? I know they're doing it in junior highs and middle schools. And so learning how to code this stuff and then teaching that ethics at that level, because whenever you know how to code without the ethics, that's what creates script kiddies.
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's good. I mentored a Cyber Patriot team 2 years ago, and there was a couple of them that were like juniors and seniors, but a couple of them were much, much younger as well. And they did great. I mean, it took them a little while to get into understanding some of the security concepts because they just didn't have exposure, but they're hungry to learn, I guess I'll say that. All right, let's move on. Again, if there's one that you guys really want to talk about, let me know.
Well, you were talking about ethics. Maybe we should talk about T-Mobile.
Oh, yeah, T-Mobile. So I don't know what I think about this. So here's the article. T-Mobile secretly bought its customer data from hackers to stop the leak, and it failed. You want to summarize it, John?
Did T-Mobile do it, or did somebody else do it on their behalf?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I know in a lot of situations like this, the insurance company will drive a lot of that conversation of here's what we want you to do. And by you, we mean we're going to do it, but it's going to be called you. You want to summarize this, John? Did you get a chance to read it? No? Okay.
I did get a chance to read it. Yeah. Do I want to summarize it? I did bring it up, so it's only fair, right?
Yeah.
Well, the idea being that T-Mobile, I can't remember exactly what it was last.
I think they hired a third party, right?
What says?
Yeah, they hired a third party.
And the hackers had personal data of 30 million of its customers. And I think that included date of birth, social security number, a lot of sensitive information, surprisingly. And then before T-Mobile went to kind of disclose, I think the earlier disclosure, did they disclose? Anyway, but
that was kind of
Mandiant was the company they had kind of doing the forensics research on that. And Mandiant actually ended up negotiating with the seller of the stolen data to purchase it for exclusive access, meaning that they wouldn't sell it to anybody else. Mm-hmm. And long story short, that didn't work out so well. They purchased it with that agreement, but of course, no honor among thieves. The sellers went ahead and continued to sell it to other people. So it finally came out. And they were
so here's a thought.
Disclosed.
It's $200,000. In a situation like this, to a company like T-Mobile, you're dealing with that big of a data breach. Is it a bad idea to throw $200,000 at it and just see if it works?
They probably spent that on one of their commercials that just played on the TV.
I mean, how could it? I don't know. I can't see it being effective in any case. What? Oh, sure, okay. They stopped spreading it. I mean, yeah, I guess if it does work, that's good. But you know.
But still, my feeling on that is,
I don't know.
An ethical company would have done that and disclosed the breach anyway, to say, look, in an effort to try and minimize the potential damage, we've gone ahead and we've negotiated with the thieves to keep this off the market, basically.
Was this on raid forums? This was on raid forums, right?
Because my friend Bob has spent a lot of time on raid forums in the past.
Well, yeah. So if you're not familiar, raid forums is a forum that anybody can access where you can download. People will upload compromised, breach data, and then you can buy it, download it, and stuff like that. Here's what's interesting. I'm trying quickly to find another article. Just a few weeks ago, raid forums got raided and shut down. Is it possible? Is it possible that Mandiant, T-Mobile, all of this was part of a sting? I don't know. It's because if it was, just it makes you wonder,
That's
right?
Big reputational cost for T-Mobile, though.
Potentially, yeah, and for Mandiant,
yeah.
The article I saw there said that Mandiant wasn't responding to questions about it. Well, to be fair, they're a third party. They've got NDAs with T-Mobile, I'm
Right.
sure, and they're in the process of getting bought by Google, so that's complicated.
Wait,
I don't know.
maybe?
That's interesting. I would imagine that if there was some kind of relationship going on there, that T-Mobile would release that eventually,
Yeah, they have to do something to kind of
counter it.
restore trust.
I know
Yeah.
as of that article, though, one of the things I had read in there was that T-Mobile didn't respond when asked if they knew that the third party they hired had paid the hackers
Yeah.
$200,000 to something.
Well, if I was their lawyer, I'd tell them.
I was gonna say that.
Right,
Well-
right. It's just an interesting,
Yeah.
in there.
I hate when news people say they didn't respond as if a lack of response. You know what I mean? There are some times where a lack of response is absolutely a sign that something happened, but I don't know.
Any lawyer is going to tell them you do not
Don't acknowledge
do not
this.
claim responsibility for this.
Yeah. All right, let's move. We're talking about not so much ransomware, but breaches like that. John, I know you were really impressed with this article about magnetic storage. So magnetic storage prices are on the rise. All of those tapes that everybody hated for years apparently are back in vogue.
Everybody should click on this link and look at the pictures for at least for a laugh, because
I'm too young to remember anything tape related.
Cory is like, what is that thing? Is that,
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's an 8-track, Cory. That's what 8-tracks look like.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know.
Clearly you still don't know because he just pulled one over on you. That's not an 8-track.
No, I know it's not. I know what an 8-track is.
Okay.
That could have 8
Right.
tracks. You don't know that. I mean, I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to go look it up because I
Yeah.
don't remember how many tracks that has. But
I mean, the point of the article is that writing stuff to tape is slow, and the nature of how those tape discs are stored is they're offline, right? So one of the big problems with ransomware is, hey, guess what? We ransomed your data. Oh, and we ransomed your backup data, or encrypted your backup data. So because it's online, whereas tape has to inherently be offline, right? If you've got multiple copies,
right.
I don't know. Is that a plausible defense for like, hey, let's go back to this 40-year-old media?
I can almost see the discussion, in the kind of the pitch meeting.
Yeah.
The IT manager goes in saying, hey, I want some money to move our backups into this immutable cloud storage or this immutable on-prem solution. I want to upgrade that. And their director and the leadership says, but you've got these tape libraries sitting in the data center that are doing nothing. Why don't we just write that to tape and send it off site? And the blood drains out of the IT manager's face going, oh,
No.
God, did this just happen to me? Because he knows that not only does he then have to manage all those tapes, their offsite storage, but he has to then also make sure that he can find the tapes that are needed in the event of a breach. That's assuming that the hackers haven't ransomwared his backup server and its tape database, right? Because you can't recover what you don't know. You think it's slow recovering from that tape that you have to call back. Wait until you have to actually go through and index every tape in that storage in order to know which tape the data you want is on.
It's on. Yeah.
I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on here real quick. My Talez tinfoil hat. Okay. And I'm gonna say that Iron Mountain is behind this.
There you go.
I'm picturing like an older sales guy that has been hungry for years, and he's got the checkered suit on or whatever. The dude hasn't made a sale in months.
Like
and
Gil from The Simpsons.
Yeah, he's been working part-time as a used car salesman for the last 10 years, and he's like, oh, I've got a deal for you. Ransomware is the big thing. We can protect you.
It's Gil's time to shine.
Exactly. Oh man. Hold on, where's this at? I've got some zip disks here. Maybe these things are on a premium. Maybe I need to drop those on eBay.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Moving on. What do we got next?
I love the comments.
Yeah, the
LTO1
Commodore
has 8 tracks, by the way.
I need to get some RAM for my Mac Plus back here. Maybe it's going to be worth something again. Where are we at time? 12:43. We've got time for a few more. So I'm going to pull up this Google banned some apps that Gizmodo is calling out. There were several apps that were specifically used for Muslims to keep track of prayers and that sort of thing. It's more than that. If you read through the article, there was, I think, a camera app and what were the others? A barcode scanner and a clock and stuff like that. Several different apps. But they found code in the apps that was specifically used to steal data from people. And what was interesting about it, what I found interesting, is the code was engineered by a company that's linked to a defense contractor
in Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're kind of making a leap there a little bit about was the U.S. defense contractors directly related? It could be another third party. If you've got a third party code developer that makes mobile apps, they could be working for a lot of different folks. But I don't know. Did you guys have thoughts on this?
I guess the potential link to a defense contractor, right, is interesting. Why was that code linked to them in the first place? Was it compromised code? Mm-hmm. Right. Or did somebody pay them to, develop this and integrate it into these apps or what? I don't know.
Well, no, it says in the article that the SDK developer paid the app developers to incorporate their code in their apps.
I missed that.
Which, that helps kind of build the momentum towards the conclusion. Somebody was trying to actively target and seed this out there for.
I'm having a hard time believing that an SDK was embedded in these apps. That's not what an SDK does. So something's wrong with this.
The language is kind of weird.
Yeah.
The language is weird. I had some hangups with that too. It looks like what they mean is that there's basically a library that's got some functions, right, with
designed to harvest data.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is some of the more technical aspects of it. Because Android itself has, this whole permission system with restricted data and restricted actions, and apps have to declare in the manifest, what permissions they need, and then users have to authorize those as they come up. So I'm curious, is it a case of this? Because I don't have the code. That article I posted goes into some of the details about how some aspects of it worked. How much of it is just circumventing the permission system altogether through side channels versus how much of it maybe is people just blindly accepting permissions?
Sure. Wait,
that's valid.
Surely when people install apps, they check the permissions and are cautious about that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they know exactly why an app would request that permission, and they would, they believe when the app tells them that it needs it for this purpose, that it's only going to be used for that purpose.
Right. And they read the entire EULA.
A means to validate that on an ongoing basis.
So it's sort of related, and this came up in some bug bounty stuff I was doing recently, where there was an issue with a deep link into an Android app. Well, on newer versions of Android now, it seems like deep linking doesn't work by default. So you have to go into the app's permissions, and the links that the Android app defines as being able to intercept, you have to enable them.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah. At least I've had to do that for a few different apps on pretty recent versions of Android. I was running Android 12, and my Samsung S21 or whatever has that same feature too. So
I'll have to check that out. I don't remember seeing that before.
Yeah, it was kind of weird to me. I don't know if I'm not sure if it's being rolled out or what, but
one of the things that so there's this theorized idea that, hey, this vendor that made these apps is somehow linked to defense contractors. Okay. We don't know for sure if it was the defense contractors who paid them to develop the apps, or if somebody at the, maybe the people there in that company are malicious and we're doing it. Maybe they're just harvesting that data and selling it to data brokers. As sketchy as that sounds, it's not illegal, right? Like that's what happens. It could be somebody more malicious, but let's run with the theory that it's part of the defense, industrial complex, right? NSA, CIA, DOD, whatever. Is that a bad thing? Like, from a privacy perspective, we would say yes. But at the same time, like, we pay these people to do that. Yeah, Giovanni said it's not unlikely. And I agree. I think it's very likely, whether it happened or not. From a thought experiment perspective, we pay the CIA to spy on people. We pay the NSA to spy on people. That's why we have those organizations. And no one is, I don't know. Not the average person is not campaigning to get rid of those organizations altogether. So do we not expect this kind of thing to happen?
I think we expect them not to get caught.
Yeah, Giovanni, we get upset when they do their jobs. Yeah.
Right.
We expect them not to get caught.
Right. I'm gonna
You better do your job.
And I'm gonna be a big nerd when I do so, because I'm gonna say that when I play D&D, the dungeon master always warns me that if I can do something, so can the bad guys, the monsters, the enemies, right? If we can do something like this, or if something like this can be done by the good guys, you can bet that somebody that we would consider not a good guy could be doing the same thing to us. I think what it does is it highlights kind of the lack of visibility that we have, the lack of transparency about what our apps are doing. We demand that, we build that into, that's part of the design for a secure enterprise, is that we have monitoring and logging and more transparency into what's going on in our networks, on our systems. But we don't demand that same thing as consumers of these mobile devices. And we don't demand that from the companies that are supposedly protecting us from that, Apple and Google and the developers of the mobile device operating systems. I think we need to see more of that going forward. But why aren't we seeing that yet? We're blaming these companies that are exploiting the loopholes, the lack of transparency inherent in these devices. It's not their fault. It's our fault for not demanding more.
Yeah. It's interesting. To your point, I was trying to figure out who found the issues, and I was thinking it was Google, but it wasn't. It was a third-party company called AppCensus that did the investigation and found these things and then reported it to Google. I mean,
well, that's the link that Cory posted. Yeah.
Yeah. I see that now. I mean, that's good on them good on Google for saying, okay, here, let's take these out of the App Store. I think that's the right response, but maybe to John's point, should we expect them to be doing more? And is that even practical? Like, with the number of apps out there, is it practical for Apple and Google and Microsoft, whoever, to monitor that level of depth on all of the apps?
I think
give users some visibility into what permissions, right? You're reporting at the time you install the app, what permissions the app wants in order to operate. Give the users some ability to check in and see what those permissions are being used for and how often they're being used for.
Well, I think you should be able to also give the users permission, like, to actually say, no, I will allow certain permissions. I do not allow these other permissions. And it just disables the functionality of the app. And I know it's not built in. That's something that should be.
No, that's totally there.
Okay, see,
yeah,
I'm an iPhone guy.
Android on the iPhone even.
Yeah, I think it's not as functional on the iPhone.
Apple.
Yeah. So like when an app prompts you, and so the way it works now in more recent versions of Android is it prompts you when the app needs to access that thing. So not all at the beginning. Yeah. So like if an app you're diddling around through an app and you go to a feature that tries to access your contacts, right? It'll then say, hey, this app needs permission to use your contacts. And now you can I don't know if this is in stock Android or what, but at least on my phone, you can say allow once, allow always, or only allow while the app is like running for things like location.
Yep.
So it can't harvest that in the background. And if you deny it, that function of the app just won't work.
Yeah, we have that same thing on Apple, by the way.
Yeah,
It's not
we do.
exclusive.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be more helpful to see have that transparency of what is it, when is it using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if I say
a report on it would
I
be
say
nice.
just once, okay, great. I want to know when it's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I say only when the app is running, okay, but at least show me when it's done it. I want to be able to look at a log to say, oh, this app has done this.
Right.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the average user is never going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like you might do it, I might do it, but my mom's not going to do that ever. Yeah. She's not even going to ask that question. So
I mean, what's interesting on here, at least I can go into an app, on my phone, and I don't get the detailed information that I guess you're talking about, but I can go in and view the permissions that I've allowed. I can retract them there and stuff. But interestingly, there's an option on here, at least on my Samsung phone, to if an app goes long enough without using a permission, it'll remove that permission.
Yeah, that's stock on Android. They added that around a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
So it's every so often, maybe every month or so, I get a notice of hey, these permissions removed from these apps, and then you can decide, no, I want to go ahead and leave that permission on or not. But they have done a good job with that.
I think it's maybe trending towards some of the things that John would like to see.
Yeah.
But there needs to be maybe more pressure. But like Nathan said, also there's the average user. Are they going to really look at and understand a report of their app permission usage? Maybe. I don't know.
Yep. Well, hey guys, I got a call at 1, so I'm going to wrap it up. But before we do that, one more thing. We are going to do something new. We're going to try out anyway. We're going to give a $25 gift card to a random attendee. So Big Marker has this lucky draw feature, and I'm going to click this button and see what happens.
I hope it's an Aaron Moss.
So if I spin here, let's see who comes. Are you guys seeing this? Does this pop up for you?
I can see it. Yeah.
Oh, Kathy doesn't count.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Again,
Kathy's on my team. She's if it comes up with her. Oh, Chris Rogers. Awesome. So congratulations, Chris Rogers. You won a $25 Amazon gift card. We'll follow up after. I think we probably have your email address from when you signed up. And we'll make sure you get that. But thanks everybody for attending. John, Aaron, Cory. It was awesome. We will talk to you again next time.
bye.
Yeah, Brad, we were testing that out. The lucky draw, we were testing it to make sure it worked and figure that out.
Yeah, poor Giovanni, because I walked in here a while ago and it said Giovanni. I was like, hey, Giovanni won something.
Yeah. No, that was just our test at the beginning. We saw that and we're like, hey, I wonder if this will work.
Don't worry, Giovanni. We'll send you a bill.
Yeah.
For $25.
Easy solution, though. Tell some friends, show up next time, and we'll give it another shot. All right. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.